Hello and welcome to this lecture where you are going to understand what classification is. To work with this machine learning task, it is needed a historical dataset. We can consider this dataset. Let's suppose that it is from a bank. There are some features for each one of the customers of the bank. Each one of the rows is related to a customer. The first column is the credit history, and it can be bad, unknown, and good. Debts, high or low. Properties, if the customer has car, houses, or other type of equipment that can be used to guarantee a possible loan, and the possible values are none and good. And finally, the annual income, less than 15,000, between 15 and 35,000, and finally, greater than 35,000. These are the attributes or the features of the customer. In this example, there are only 4 columns. Of course, in a real scenario, it would have more data. And finally, we can take a look at the last column, which is the risk to give a loan to a customer. The possible values are high, moderate, and low. It is important to emphasize again that this is a historical dataset, and the bank needs this data in order to train the algorithm. As we can see, this is called the training dataset. All this data will be sent to a machine learning algorithm that is going to perform a lot of mathematical calculations to predict the risk of giving a loan to a certain customer. Another important concept is that the bank needs to create this dataset, and all the rows are real customers of the bank. For example, let's suppose that this customer here, the first one, credit history is bad, high debts, no properties, and the income is less than 15. We can consider that this customer took out a loan in the bank and the risk is considered high. Let's suppose that he or she didn't pay the loan. So the risk was high in the past for a customer with these features. We can consider this other, the credit history, unknown, debts low, properties none, and the annual income greater than 35. This is the data of a real customer of the bank, and the risk was low. Let's suppose that the customer could pay all the loan with no problem. We have this other customer with this data, and the risk was moderate. Let's suppose that he or she paid some part of the loan and some of them were delayed. So the risk was moderate for this particular customer. It is important to emphasize that the bank needs to fill this data here. According to the data, it is going to analyze each one of the situations and specify the risk. This is a hard task since the dataset needs to be made from scratch. The goal of classification is to predict the risk to give a loan. So we can see here some other clients that have just requested a loan. We can see the data, credit history, debts, properties, and income, but we don't know the risk. So when the algorithm is trained, each one of these customers is sent to the algorithm and it is going to return a prediction if the risk is high, moderate, or low. So the bank employee will decide if the loan will be granted to the customers. This is how classification task works. There is another example, the gender of the person, the country, the age, and the class is buy, if the customer is going or not to buy a certain product. Again, it is a historical data. For example, gender M from France, age 25, bought the products in the past. So we have this real customer. Another one, male from Germany, 21 years old, didn't buy the product. This is the training data that will be sent to a machine learning algorithm. And after that, we have some other new customers that actually we don't know if they are going to buy the product or not. So we can send this data to the algorithm that is going to return a prediction. In this case, yes or no. This is particularly useful because you can send only email to people that have more chances to buy the products. These examples are related to common datasets with features of people. It is also possible to use classification to classify images. An image is made of a lot of pixels. Each one of these points can be considered a pixel, and the set of pixels are used to make this image. In this example, there are 32 pixels in the horizontal axis and 32 pixels on the vertical axis. If you count, you are going to see that there are 32 by 32 pixels. We can multiply 32 by 32 equals 1024 pixels. When working with images, instead of sending to the algorithm the data about the people, such as the age, the credit history, the debts, and so on, the pixels are sent to the algorithm. So it will be able to classify the images. For example, we have this image laughing, but we could have another image of sad people. So the algorithm will receive the pixels and is going to classify. Another concept when working with images, we use the RGB scale, the basic colors, red, green, and blue. And the goal is to classify or to separate the classes. Here we have the blue class, could be the people laughing, and the orange class could be the sad people or the sad images. That's all for this lecture, where you have learned the basic about classification. In the next one, we are going to start understanding the intuition about the algorithms. See you there!